Across forgotten valleys, abandoned highways, drowned rivers, and forested ravines. Broken bridges cling to the world like skeletons of a past that refuses to let go. Rusted beams jut out like snapped ribs. Old planks dangle above bottomless drops. Guardrails twist like tortured metal limbs. Beneath them, water churns like something alive, waiting. These bridges were not destroyed by time alone. They carry stories. Tragedies. Final footsteps. Accidents that should never have happened. Drivers vanished without a trace. Foot travelers stepped onto the boards and were never seen again. Some say the bridges collapsed under the weight of curses, not storms. Locals whisper about shadows pacing the railings. Figures staring down from the middle of the span. Voices calling from the underside of the planks. The air is colder near them. The wind sounds like breathing. And when the sun sets, the bridges remember. If you approached a broken bridge in the dark and saw a silhouette waiting at the center, would you continue walking, or would your courage stop at the edge? The road ahead is dangerous. The river waits. The ghosts are listening. Breathe slowly. We are crossing into their world. Hello, my dear friend. I hope you are safe wherever you are tonight. Stay close to the light. Lean nearer to my voice. Because the places we travel to now are not for those with unsteady hearts. These are bridges no one dares to cross. Not because they might collapse beneath footsteps, but because something else waits for those who try. Some say these bridges are cursed. Some say they are hungry. Some say they remember everyone who died on them. Many stand half-broken, suspended between the world of the living and whatever lies below. Ropes sway without wind. Wood groans as if someone invisible walks across it. Cars stall on the approach. Phones die. Footsteps echo even when standing still. Travelers have heard drowned voices calling from beneath. Hikers have seen figures standing at the far end. Drivers felt the steering wheel pull toward the edge. Some saw faces staring from the water below. Some heard whispers inviting them forward. Some crossed and never returned. Before we step closer, let me ask you something that may haunt you tonight. If you reached the center of a broken bridge and heard footsteps behind you, slow and heavy, would you turn to face Thema? Slow and heavy. Would you turn to face Thema? Or would you run and pray the planks hold long enough to escape? Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let us begin. Black Hollow Bridge rests deep in a ravine in West Virginia, where the forest grows so tightly around the structure that the sunlight barely reaches the ground. The road leading to it is cracked and overgrown, fading into dirt before it reaches the first plank. Trees lean inward as if trying to smother the bridge, their branches clawing at the rails like wooden fingers dragging it back into the earth. The bridge looks less like it was built here and more like it was abandoned to the elements long before anyone could reclaim it. Locals say a bus fell here decades ago. A school bus, or a coach, depending on who tells the story. They speak of a night when the fog swallowed the road and lights were seen tracking the bend above the ravine. Then a sound like twisting metal, a roar of an engine, and a splash of noise that cut through the valley. But no wreck was ever found. Search parties combed the ravine and the stream below. Nothing waited there. No tires. No frame. No broken glass. Just trees, water, and the bridge holding its broken spine above the drop. The rails are fractured, splintered by time or impact. No one can say. The boards groan underfoot, and the beams beneath them creak with every shift of weight. Moss blankets the wood in patches like bruises. Rust stains streak down the metal supports, reminding anyone who steps close that the bridge is not as stable as it appears. Some claim the trees are winning the slow struggle. Their branches wrap the rails like hands holding tight. On foggy nights, people hear the bus engine rumbling beneath the wood. The sound is faint at first, like distant thunder buried underground. Then it rises, revving, struggling, as if trying to climb a hill that no longer exists. Some hear brakes squeal. Others hear the churn of wheels on gravel. The sound never reaches the bridge's surface. It stays below, echoing in the hollow space between the boards and the ravine. Footsteps follow the sound. Not human ones. Too heavy. Too measured. Each step lands with the weight of something built of metal, not bone. Those who stand on the structure at night report that the boards shift under them, not from their own movements but from something unseen pacing the span. Some claim headlights glow from the forest, waiting for a road that no longer exists. The lights appear between the trees, two pale beams cutting through the fog. They hover at the bend where the road used to continue. They hold steady, never swaying like a person holding a lantern. They shine as though attached to a vehicle facing forward, waiting to move. But the moment anyone tries to approach, the lights vanish, swallowed by the branches. The fog in the ravine behaves differently than the fog elsewhere in the forest. It gathers at the bridge first, pooling around the beams. It clings to the rails. Then spills over the edge like breath from the earth. Standing on the bridge in that fog feels like standing in a memory. The air grows cold. The wood beneath the feet stiffens. The silence sharpens. Until the smallest sound cuts through like a knife. Some visitors hear voices at the far end of the bridge. A name is called. A warning. The sound of a child asking if they are almost home. No answer follows. The words drift across the planks and fade into the trees, leaving only silence behind. Others hear laughter, quick and bright. As if a conversation continues just out of view. Then it stops, cut short as though someone realized they were being listened to. The edges of the ravine are steep and slick with moss. Old tire ruts cut into the dirt, heading toward the broken guardrail. And stopping abruptly. They look recent, though the story claims the bus disappeared long ago. Grass has not grown through the marks. Rain has not washed them away. They wait like footprints frozen in time. Below the bridge, water runs through the rocks. The stream is shallow, thin as a ribbon. It reflects the sky in warped fragments. No one has found any trace of the bus there. But sometimes the reflection changes. People standing above the water swear they see the shape of a vehicle beneath the surface. Even in daylight, Black Hollow Bridge carries a weight. The air feels tight, like breath held too long. Birds do not nest near it. Animals avoid crossing it. The forest grows close, pressing in, as though trying to hide the structure or protect something beneath it. The bridge stands alone, not broken but paused, like an unfinished moment. No guardrails block entry. No signs warn of danger. The bridge simply waits. Its boards bend beneath each step. The ravine below holds its secrets in stillness. And the trees watch with their roots and branches wrapped tight around the beams. Hidden deep in a ravine, trees claw at the broken rails like fingers trying to drag the bridge back into the earth. Locals say a bus fell here, but no wreck was ever found. On foggy nights, the engine rumbles beneath the boards. Headlights glow from the forest. Footsteps cross the planks. Waiting for a road that no longer exists. Devila's Bend Crossing lies deep in rural Alabama, where the road narrows to a single lane and the trees on either side lean inward like an archway. The bridge that once connected the two halves of this route still stands, or what remains of it does. It curves over the river like a spine bent at the wrong angle, warped by time and weight. The locals say the bridge never stood straight, even when it was new. Something about the shape of the land or the bend of the river made every attempt at construction tilt. Crews rebuilt planks. But the foundation always shifted. The road curved unnaturally, bending like vertebrae forced out of alignment. Travelers crossing at night said they could feel the curve in their bones before they ever saw it with their eyes. Now, only the two ends remain. One side leads to an overgrown path that disappears into pine trees. The other meets the riverbank, worn smooth from years of rain and runoff. Between those two ends is a gap filled with rushing current and broken remnants of wood. The river flows fast here, faster than anywhere else along its length. It churns and slams against the collapsed supports, carrying away anything that falls in. The river flows fast here, faster than anywhere else along its length. It churns and slams against the collapsed supports, carrying away anything that falls in. Carrying away anything that falls in. The river flows fast here, faster than anywhere else along its length. Fishermen sit along the banks, casting lines into the deep water. They do not sit close to the bridge. They stay several yards back, keeping the collapsed span in view without letting their shadows touch the broken edge. They have learned to listen to the river. They hear splashing from beneath the surface. Sudden and forceful, as if someone fell or something rose quickly from below. The sound does not match the movement of fish or the rhythm of debris striking current. It sounds like bodies breaking through water. After the splashing comes coughing. Wet, broken gasps echo upward through the hollow beneath the bridge. The coughing sounds strained, like someone trying to breathe again after being held under too long. The river swallows the sound quickly, but not before it reaches the ears of anyone listening. The fishermen never move toward the edge when this happens. They reel their lines in slowly. They keep their voices low. They watch the water without blinking. No bodies have ever surfaced. The river is deep at Devila's Bend, deeper than a collapse should allow. Divers once came to search for what might lie below. They did not last long. They reported cold currents twisting around their legs, pushing rather than pulling, almost deliberate in their movement. One diver said the water felt crowded, as though many things moved beneath him without ever touching. Another said she heard something like breathing, not hers, echoing through her mask. They left without reaching the bottom. They could not confirm how deep it goes. On some evenings, when fog rises from the surface, the broken boards of the bridge shift slightly. Not enough to be seen clearly. Just enough that a sound echoes like a footstep placed on wet wood. Then another. And another. And another. And another. The pattern crosses the broken planks to where the bridge ends, stops at the missing section, and fades. There are no footprints. There is no pressure on the boards. But the steps can be heard clearly, paced like someone is crossing a structure that no longer exists. Travelers who stop to look across the gap sometimes feel the air change. The wind runs colder. The hairs on their arms rise. They hear the splashing begin again. Then the coughing. Sometimes it comes from directly below them, as if someone is just beneath the surface, trying to reach the air. Some describe seeing bubbles rise. Others see hands gripping broken beams before vanishing again below the surface. The road approaching Devila's Bend crossing carries its own signs of unease. As though wind or footsteps consistently pushed it aside. Deer tracks stop before reaching the bend. Even insects remain scarce. Some believe the collapse was an accident. Years of wait. A storm. Rot in the supports. Others believe something pulled the bridge down from below. As if the river rose up and took it back. A place people once crossed without wood or steel. A place that never wanted to be covered. Fishermen tell newer visitors to leave before nightfall. They say the coughing gets louder after dark. They say sometimes it sounds like more than one voice. They say the splashing turns frantic then, not like someone falling, but like someone reaching. If anyone watches too long, they begin to hear breathing coming from the collapsed center. Not from the river. From the space where the bridge used to be. The river does not return what it takes. Not wood. Not debris. Not bodies. Nothing floats downstream. Nothing washes ashore. The current pulls inward, as though the water does not simply flow but feeds an unseen depth. Something beneath the surface shifts when the coughing begins, like a presence turning over, waking itself. The bridge curves like a spine bent at the wrong angle. The center is missing, collapsed into the river below. The splash breaks the silence. The coughing follows, wet and strained, like someone trying to breathe again. Then the water closes. The sound stops. The current resumes. No bodies have ever surfaced. And the river keeps its secrets. Lantern Step Bridge stretches across a narrow river in Maine. The wood worn soft by years of footsteps and weather. It was once a simple crossing between two trails, a place for travelers making their way through the forest after sundown. In those days, oil lanterns lined the handrail, set at regular intervals to guide those passing through. They burned with warm flame, flickering in the wind, a comfort against the darkness of the trees. Today, the lanterns are still there, but no one lights them. Not anymore. As night falls, the lanterns ignite on their own. One by one, flame blooms inside the glass, brightening into life without a match. The air is still. No breeze reaches the bridge. Yet the lanterns sway gently, like hands are brushing past them. The flames dance with no wind, rising and falling in slow, deliberate motion. For some, this display looks like welcome. For others, warning. The boards of the bridge creak under the weight of nothing. If someone stands at the entrance, the sound stops. The bridge waits, lanterns swaying, light pooling on the boards. The shadows remain still until the first step is taken. Then they begin to move. Shadows walk beside the lanterns, keeping pace with the light. They do not match the shape of the person crossing. They do not mimic movement. They have their own gait, their own presence, their own rhythm. They pass along the opposite rail or trail silently, never touching the boards. They stay just close enough to see, but never close enough to touch. They appear like outlines of figures that were forgotten, walking a path that no longer leads where it once did. Local stories say the lanterns were lit by someone long gone. A caretaker, perhaps. A traveler who never left. Someone who tended the bridge long after the trail was abandoned. Over the years, the trail on the far side vanished into the forest. And the homes it led to collapsed into soil. Whatever destination once waited there is gone. The lanterns still light the way, but the way no longer ends anywhere living. Some who cross claim the flame brightens as they walk. Others say it grows dimmer the closer they come to the other side. The shadows that walk beside them grow more defined the deeper they go, until their shapes appear almost human. A tilt of a head. The suggestion of hair. The line of shoulders. They never intervene. They only watch. Halfway across the bridge, the river beneath sounds different from any main waterway. It does not rush or flow or ripple. It murmurs. Not in words, but in movement. A layered sound, like whispers beneath water. The boards above feel colder in the center. The lanterns sway harder. The shadows seem to lean toward whoever crosses, as though waiting to see which choice they make. Some footsteps have been found in the dust on the boards, prints that lead to the middle but never return. People disappear here, not suddenly, not violently, but quietly, as though the bridge swallowed the end of their journey. Search parties never find where they went. The footprints stop halfway, then fade. Occasionally, someone will see another traveler ahead of them. A person walking slowly, lantern glow outlining their shape. They never turn back. If called to, they do not answer. They do not speed up or slow down. They simply continue, taking step after step until the mist ahead swallows them whole. When the watcher reaches the same place, the figure is gone. The lanterns sway, and the river murmurs beneath the boards. Some visitors believe the lanterns are trying to help. That they light the way for those who are lost. That the shadows are guardians. Others believe the lanterns are bait, drawing travelers forward. That the flames are not light, but lure. A path into somewhere unseen. Those who have crossed and returned speak of the far end of the bridge as if it were different each time. Sometimes the trees are closer, pressing in like a crowd. Sometimes the fog is so thick it feels like stepping into a veil. Sometimes the path is clear, but the silence is so absolute it feels like stepping into memory instead of land. Nothing moves on the other side. No birds. No wind. No sound but breathing. Anyone who lingers too long on the far shore feels a pull. Not physical. Emotional. A tug in the chest, like the memory of someone calling a name. The lanterns on the bridge flicker. The shadows stop walking. The air feels thick. People turn around before the feeling can tighten. If they wait longer, they say the lanterns begin to go out behind them, one at a time. Lantern step bridge remains because no one has taken it down. The lanterns still light on their own. The flames still dance with no wind. The shadows still walk beside those who cross, silent and patient. They never leave either. Do not follow the lights. They lead nowhere living. Broken Spine Rail Bridge stands deep in a Colorado canyon, where cliffs rise like jagged walls and the air carries the sharp scent of rust and stone. The bridge earned its name from the way the steel beams twist outward, like ribs shattered open. Once, trains crossed here daily, their wheels humming over the tracks as engines pushed cargo through the mountains. Now the rails lie broken, bent like fractured bone, and the bridge sits silent except for the wind. When that wind blows, it vibrates through the metal. A low groan rolls across the canyon, long and uneven, like the exhale of something buried beneath the ground. The sound travels without echo. It lingers in the air, heavy and deliberate. Hikers who pass beneath the bridge say the groan feels directed, like a voice forming before the words catch. The bridge looks as if something forced it open. The beams are bent outward, not down. The steel twists in spirals, like something large gripped the girders and pulled until the metal gave way. The stone supports are cracked in patterns that do not match natural erosion. Some say the break looks too clean, almost shaped. Others insist it resembles something snapping under pressure from the inside. No official record explains the collapse. No storm. No derailment. No earthquake. The bridge simply failed one night. Locals claim they heard the sound from miles away, like metal screaming. By the time anyone reached the site, the structure was already broken. The tracks dangled like slack wires. The canyon floor glittered with shattered bolts. Nothing moved except the wind threading through the broken ribs of steel. Hikers who visit during the day describe an unease that settles slowly. The canyon feels too quiet. Birds fly around the edge but never across it. Animals avoid the path beneath the bridge. Even footsteps seem softer, swallowed by the dust before they can echo. The silence leaves space for the wind to speak. It drifts through the beams and turns every gap into a throat, every bolt hole into a mouth. The groan rises again, long and steady. Those who linger hear more than groaning. They hear steel bending. Not all at once, but in small shifts. A creak. A pull. A strained vibration, like metal being tested by invisible hands. The sound comes from the center of the bridge, where the beams twist the tightest. No one sees movement, but the noise continues. Slow. Rhythmic. Like something working the steel. Some hikers turn back immediately. Others step closer, unable to ignore the pull of curiosity. When they reach the midpoint, the air feels heavier, as though the bridge holds breath in its frame. The canyon floor shows signs of disturbance. Not footprints. Not animal tracks. Long grooves run across the dust and stone, wide enough to drag boulders. They vanish beneath the bridge and reappear on the far side, continuing into the darkness between cliffs. Some grooves cut deep, like claws pulled through the earth. Others scatter rock as if something massive shifted its weight while passing. At night, the stories grow stranger. Campers nearby report hearing metal twist as if the bridge is being bent again, piece by piece. Rails vibrate without wind. Bolts rattle like teeth chattering. Some hear a sound like something dragging along the canyon floor, each movement slow and weighted. It echoes differently than footsteps. Not up and down. Forward. Crawling. A few hikers have claimed to see a shape moving in the canyon after dark. Not a silhouette. Not an outline. Just the impression of mass. A shadow that blocks the moonlight but holds no clear form. It passes beneath the bridge, pushing air and dust outward as it moves. The bridge groans in response, as though recognizing it. Those who speak of it describe size. Something large enough to brush both walls of the canyon. Something that bends steel not with effort, but with habit. They say it crawls, not out of weakness, but out of design. Each movement paced, like a creature exploring a world not built for it. The bridge reacts each time. Steel strains. Metal hums. The twisted beams vibrate as though remembering the force that broke them. The groan deepens, resonating like a warning or a call. Campers who hear the sound after midnight say the groan shifts in tone, no longer whine through metal but something closer to breath. There are theories about what caused the collapse. Some believe the bridge was weakened by time. Others claim it was a geological shift. But the patterns in the metal do not match stress fractures. They match pressure applied from outside. Or inside. As though something pushed upward through the rails before crawling away into the canyon. Sunrise does not chase the feeling away. The bridge still sits broken, shoulders pulled apart, ribs exposed. The canyon still holds its silence. The wind still vibrates through steel like a voice practicing speech. Hikers leave with the same memory. Not the groan. Not the bent beams. The feeling that the bridge is not abandoned. That something passes through the canyon still. Not nightly. But regularly. Like a route it once traveled. Like a path it intends to return to. Broken spine rail bridge stands like evidence. A structure split as if forced open. Steel beams twisted like ribs shattered wide. Wind that groans like metal remembering pain. And hikers reporting the sound of steel being bent by invisible hands. Some say something massive crawls through the canyon at night. And the bridge is waiting for it to come back. Widowa-S crossing sits deep in the rural stretches of Kentucky, where the tree line presses close to the road and fog clings to the ground like memory. The crossing itself is a narrow wooden bridge suspended over a slow-moving river. The boards are warped from age, darkened by moisture, and slick with moss. During the day it looks simple, almost ordinary. But at night, the place changes. The shadows grow longer. The river turns still. The air thickens with a quiet that feels intentional. It is said that a woman in black appears at the far end of the bridge. Always soaked. Always silent. Her dress clings to her as though she has just walked out of the river. Water drips from her hair and sleeves, pooling at her feet before disappearing into the boards. She stands unmoving, her face tilted downward, as if she is waiting for someone to notice her. She does not approach. Not until the living take the first step. Those who have encountered her say she watches without lifting her head. The moment someone steps onto the bridge, she raises her chin just enough for her eyes to be seen. They shine with water, not reflection, as though tears never stop forming. The first step is always safe. It is the second that matters. The moment the living choose to continue forward, her hand lifts. Not fast. Not threatening. Slowly, like someone reaching out to ask for help. When her hand rises, the boards begin to crack beneath the feet of whoever stepped forward. The sound echoes through the night like distant thunder. It is not subtle. It is a warning. Some turn back at the first crack. They run. They do not look over their shoulders. The sound fades behind them and the crossing becomes still again. The woman does not chase. She simply lowers her hand and returns to silence. Others continue. Those who step toward her feel the bridge shift under their weight. The boards bow, as if something beneath is pushing upward. The water beneath the crossing ripples outward in perfect circles, even when no stone drops to disturb the surface. The woman's hand rises higher. Her fingertips point toward the person walking toward her. And then she moves. The soaked fabric of her dress clings to the boards as she lifts her foot. The sound of water dripping grows louder, as if every drop contains a memory. She steps forward without bending the wood beneath her, floating just above the surface like she is held up by something unseen. The space between her and the traveler shrinks with every breath. Her eyes stay fixed. Her hand remains lifted. If she reaches you, the stories say, it is too late. People who have escaped describe the same sensation. The air becomes heavy. Breathing grows shallow. The water beneath the bridge begins to roar even though the river never changes speed. Something unseen rises with her, as if she is not crossing alone. The boards crack in a line, tracing the path behind the traveler like footsteps made by the bridge itself. There are tales about who the woman was. Some say she lost her husband to the river during a flood, his boat overturned by waters that rose too fast. Others claim she jumped after him when help never came. A few insist she was never alive to begin with, that she belongs to the river as much as the current does. The stories conflict, but they agree on one thing. Whatever she waits for did not come back, and whatever she reaches for now is not the same. Locals avoid the crossing after dark. They warn travelers not to stop, not to look at her for too long, and never to take a second step if they see her hand rise. Children in nearby towns grow up with the story, learning the rules long before they understand them. Even those who do not believe in ghosts speak of the place with lowered voices. It is not a place of superstition. It is a place of memory. The river beneath the bridge is deceptively shallow, only a few feet deep in most places. But at the center, below the woman's reflection, the water darkens. It looks like a drop. A pit. A channel that descends far below what the river should allow. Those who stare too long into that darkness feel the sensation of falling, even with their feet on the boards. The river seems to breathe. Not with sound, but with movement, a pull that tugs at ankles and draws attention downward. The woman always stands at the far end, always soaked, always silent. Until the living step forward. She does not interact with those who watch from a distance. She does not appear for those who cross in daylight. She exists in the hours between dusk and dawn. Suspended in the moment before a choice is made. There is a theory that the crossing works like a threshold. That stepping onto the bridge is not dangerous. Stepping toward her is. The boards hold for the first step. For the second, the wood begins to split. For the third, the river stirs. And from the fourth onward, the woman moves like a shadow returning to form. Those who turn back always say the same thing. They felt her reaching before she ever touched them. They felt the cold rising behind their knees, like a current trying to pull them downward. They felt the bridge itself decide whether they would leave. When she raises her hand, the boards crack beneath their feet. And if she reaches them, the river below opens. If she reaches you, it is too late. Driftwater Bridge sits deep in the Louisiana swamp, where the air hangs heavy with humidity and the cypress trees lean over the water like silent witnesses. The bridge once connected two isolated patches of land. But the far shoreline has long since sunk beneath the swamp. Now the structure stretches forward only to vanish into marsh and open water. Half submerged, it sits at an angle, as if the swamp is slowly pulling it under. Half submerged in swamp water, the bridge leads nowhere. The boards near the entrance are still dry, though warped and swollen from years of moisture. The farther one walks, the more water covers the planks. By the halfway point, only the highest boards remain visible. Beyond that, the bridge disappears entirely into murky depths. Whatever lies beneath is hidden in brown water and thick algae. Gators avoid it. In a place where alligators are common, this patch of swamp remains oddly empty. They circle wide around the bridge, never passing beneath it. Some rise to the surface at a distance, watching with unblinking eyes, then sink back down without approaching. Even the largest among them behave like the structure is dangerous. Like it holds something older than they are. Birds refuse to land. They circle overhead but never touch the railings. No egrets perch there. No herons pause to hunt. The branches above the bridge remain empty. The only sound is the wind moving through the reeds and the slow bubbling of water beneath the planks. The water beneath bubbles like a breath exhaled. Not like natural gas surfacing. Not like fish stirring the depths. The bubbles rise in intervals, almost rhythmic, like breathing. The water shifts in small circles as each bubble breaks. As if something large exhales from deep below the surface. Anyone standing on the bridge feels the vibration travel through the boards into their feet. A reminder that the swamp is not still. At night, wet footprints climb up from the swamp. They appear at the waterline, glistening under moonlight. Bare feet, small at times, larger at others. The prints rise from the submerged portion of the bridge. And continue upward. Stop halfway across, always at the same point. The wood there remains darker than the rest. As if water never leaves that section. By morning the footprints dry. But the stain remains. They stop halfway across. They never lead back. They never reach the land on either side. Just a path of steps that ends in the middle of the bridge. As if someone emerged from below, walked forward, and vanished into the air. Locals say the bridge was never safe. They tell stories of travelers who crossed it before the swamp swallowed the far shore. People who ventured across and felt the planks soften under their feet. Some turned back at the halfway point after hearing something move beneath the water. Others claimed they saw shapes beneath the surface, large and slow, following their footsteps from below. By the time they reached land, the water bubbled violently, and the shapes were gone. No one crosses now. The posts at the entrance lean inward like gatekeepers. Moss clings to them in thick layers. Rope once tied to the posts lies frayed along the ground. The first boards groan under pressure but hold. Anyone stepping farther hears the creaking deepen, as if the bridge is reacting to their weight. The sound does not echo into the swamp. It is absorbed, swallowed by water and mud. There is a moment on the bridge where the air cools. The smell of the swamp changes. Mud. Water. Reeds. And something else, faint and brackish, like the scent of a room flooded long ago. The breeze stops. The reeds stop moving. The world waits. Some visitors believe the footprints belong to those who drowned. Others believe something else leaves the water. The prints vary. Some are wide. Some narrow. Some look like they belong to children. Others are longer than any human foot should be. All of them stop in the same place. At the midpoint where the boards sink slightly. Like pressure is applied from below. If someone stands at the midpoint long enough, the bubbles change. The intervals shorten. The water stirs. A faint sound rises. Not speech. Not breath. Something between the two, like air moving through a hollow space. The bubbles rise faster, and the water swells against the underside of the bridge. The feeling that follows is unmistakable. Someone is beneath the structure. Not swimming. Waiting. Trying to rise. The footprints are the only sign they ever reach the surface. Some believe stepping farther will reveal what waits beyond. Others refuse to try. They stand at the edge of the midpoint and feel their heartbeat match the rhythm of the bubbles. They listen to the water breathe. They turn back before night fully settles. Driftwater Bridge does not threaten. It invites curiosity. It sits half submerged, angled toward the deep. The swamp holds it like a half-forgotten memory. The gators avoid it. The birds refuse to land. The water bubbles like a breath exhaled. And at night, the footprints climb from the swamp, stopping halfway across. That is where every story ends. At the midpoint. At the last footprint. At the place where something rises but never steps beyond. Driftwater Bridge waits. In the stillness. In the water. In the breath of the swamp below. Northwind Shatterbridge lies deep in the Alaskan wilderness, far from any marked trail or maintained road. The bridge once connected two halves of a frozen valley, stretching over a ravine carved by centuries of wind and ice. Now it stands partially collapsed, its planks broken and splintered, its ropes stiff with frost. Snow covers the surface year-round, no matter the season, hiding old wood beneath layers of white. The broken boards jut at jagged angles. The structure looks like it could give way at any moment. Footprints appear in perfect rows leading to the center. Show clearly in the snow, unbroken, evenly spaced, as though a line of travelers walked single file across the bridge. But none lead back. The pattern stops at the midpoint, where the planks begin to fail. The snow beyond that point remains untouched, a sheet of white unmarked by prints or weight. It is as if those who stepped forward never took another step. Travelers who reach the tree line before the bridge describe a feeling that settles in the chest long before they see the structure. A slow tightening. A pressure that makes breath catch in the throat. The forest stands behind them like a wall of dark shapes, branches twisting above like skeletal hands. The cold hangs heavy, sharper than mere winter air. Biting like teeth when stepping forward, sinking through layers of clothing and settling against skin like a warning. The ravine below holds nothing but wind. It rises in long exhalations, carrying particles of ice that glitter like shards of glass. The sound it makes is not simply wind passing through empty space. It pulses. It thrums. It echoes in a way that feels deliberate, like the breath of something sleeping below the snow. Those who approach the bridge feel watched from the tree line. Eyes unseen track movement. The sensation changes with each step forward, intensifying as the snow crunches underfoot. Some travelers turn back before reaching the bridge. Others step onto the first plank and freeze, unable to move. They describe the cold spreading upward through the wood, into their boots, into their bones, as though the bridge itself is pulling heat from them. The midpoint is where the broken planks open into the ravine. It is where the footprints always end. Snow shifts there when no one steps on it, sinking in a gradual dip like weight settles invisibly upon it. The boards creak in the silence, responding to pressure no one can see. Something hungry waits at the midpoint. Not an animal. Not something that can be tracked or hunted. Something made of cold. Something that lives in the breath of the wind and the break of the wood. Travelers who have reached the midpoint say the air changes. Warmth flees all at once. The cold becomes aggressive, like a presence pressing against the skin. The wind rises, not around them, but beneath them, as though something inhales from the ravine. None who reach the midpoint have taken the final step. The bridge was built decades ago, when a small settlement once existed on the far side of the valley. That settlement is gone now. The cabins collapsed under the weight of snow. The people who lived there left or vanished. Stories claim the bridge began breaking after the last family crossed it. One winter, the midpoint snapped, the wood shattered, and the bridge earned its name. No one knows who left the first footprints that appear in the snow. They are not recent. They are not weathered. They are as fresh today as the day they were first seen. Each snowfall covers them, and each snowfall reveals them again, like the snow remembers where the prints belong. Some believe the footprints mark those who vanished. Others believe they are not prints at all, but a lure. A rope railing still hangs along the northern side of the bridge. It stiffens when the wind rises. Travelers say the rope tugs, as though something below is testing its strength, pulling gently to see if it will snap. The knots along the rope remain frozen in perfect shape, untouched by decay, as if the cold preserves them for a purpose. Nightfall changes the bridge further. The snow turns blue under the fading light. The planks shift, groaning like a body in sleep. The wind carries faint sounds, not language, but something close. A muttering of ice. A voice shaped by frost. Those who stay too long near the midpoint feel the cold reach inside their lungs, like air that wants to stay. Some retreat too late. Those who turn back quickly feel the trees close behind them, as though the forest seals itself to prevent return. No one has ever seen what waits below. The ravine is too deep. The snow too constant. But there are moments when the wind clears the air. And something stirs in the shadows beneath the bridge. A shape impossible to track. A dark mass under the ice. A shift of movement where no life should be. Not solid. Not fluid. Something between. Northwind Shatterbridge remains in place, broken and unmoving, yet alive in its stillness. Snow covers the planks. Footprints appear in perfect rows leading to the center. None lead back. The forest watches. The cold bites like teeth. And the midpoint waits, patient as hunger. Travelers do not speak loudly here. They avoid the center. They respect the prince. They know the wind listens. They know the bridge remembers. And they know that something at the midpoint is always waiting for another step. Crooked Gate Bridge rests in a quiet stretch of Pennsylvania woodland, a place where the trees lean inward as if trying to hide what stands within. The path to the bridge is overgrown, the trail narrowing until it becomes little more than packed earth and scattered leaves. At the entrance stands a tall iron gate, bent as though something heavy once pressed against it. The chains hang loose, wrapped around the bars like restraints that never learned how to close. When someone approaches, the chains rattle. They do not clatter like metal struck by the wind. They shake with intention, links tapping against the iron in uneven patterns. Some visitors turn back at the sound alone. Others step closer, watching the chains vibrate even when the air is still. The message comes not from the chains themselves, but from the space beyond them, where the bridge extends over a dark ravine thick with pine and bramble. A whisper rises from the boards. Leave. It drifts across the wood-like breath, not loud enough to be fully heard, but clear enough to understand. The voice is not sharp or angry. It is weary. Heavy. Like someone who has warned too many people before. If the whisper is heeded, the woods fall silent again. If ignored, the chains rattle once more, as if resigning themselves to the choice. Those who step over or through the chained gate find the boards soft beneath their feet, warped by rain and time. The railing is uneven, broken in sections, leaning away from the ravine like it fears the drop below. The bridge curves slightly to the left, giving it the name Crooked Gate. The planks creak with every step, but not only beneath the weight of the living. There are other sounds. Footsteps that echo behind the traveler. Closer. Closer. The echoes do not match the pace of the person walking. If someone stops, the echoes continue. Slow. Heavy. A step or two behind. The sound carries the weight of feet, not wind or settling wood. Some describe the sensation of breath at their back, cold and shallow, as though something is leaning close enough to share the air. The ravine beneath the bridge is deeper than it should be. Trees grow at impossible angles, twisted like they were pulled rather than grown. Their branches tangle into shapes that resemble ribs and cages. Fog gathers at the bottom, never rising high enough to touch the boards but always present, like a boundary between what is seen and what is waiting. Halfway across, the whisper returns. Leave. This time, the word feels sharper, carried in the air like a push between the shoulder blades. The footsteps behind grow louder, as though whatever follows has grown impatient. The chain at the gate rattles again, even from the far side. Some visitors have turned around at this point, unable to bear the pressure behind them. Others continue, drawn by the bend in the bridge, unable to see the end until they reach it. Those who press forward describe the atmosphere changing. The boards feel colder, the railing slicker. The temperature drops. The trees on the far side seem farther away than they were moments ago. The bridge stretches, not physically, but in perception, like the distance between start and finish is being rearranged. They sound close enough to belong to someone who could place a hand on the traveler's back. Closer. Some visitors break into a run. Others force themselves to walk, refusing to acknowledge the footsteps gaining on them. No one who has spoken of the experience claims they turn to look. They say the instinct to face what follows is the same instinct that warns them not to. As if something waits for that moment. As if turning around is the mistake the whisper tries to stop. The end of the bridge arrives suddenly, the woods ahead returning to stillness. The footsteps stop the moment the boards are left behind. Not fading. Not slowing. Stopping. Like whatever followed cannot step beyond the planks. Those who look back see the bridge as it was before. The gate. The chains. The curve into shadow. The whisper does not return. The ravine lies silent again. But the chains still rattle. People who leave Crooked Gate Bridge sometimes feel as though someone walks behind them on the path back to the road. Not close. Not threatening. Just present. Like a reminder. Like a companion who never chose to stop following. They turn to look and find only trees, but the air around them feels occupied. The quiet carries weight. The sense of being observed lingers long after the bridge is out of sight. Locals say the gate was chained not to keep people out, but to keep something in. They do not know what waits on the boards. They only know the warnings are never shouted. Only whispered. They say the footsteps are not meant to harm. They are meant to persuade. Turn back. Do not finish the crossing. Do not look behind you. Crooked Gate Bridge remains, chained shut with no lock to hold it, rattling when footsteps draw near. A whisper rises from the boards. Leave. If ignored, footsteps echo from behind. Scarecrow Creek Bridge rests in the Nebraska countryside where tall grass sways against fence lines and cornfields stretch toward the horizon. The bridge itself is small, just a wooden crossing over a shallow creek that runs like a thin silver thread through the land. It should be unremarkable, the kind of place a traveler forgets the moment they pass it. But Scarecrow Creek Bridge is never forgotten by those who see it. Something about it lingers. Crows gather here. Dozens at a time. They perch along the wires that cross overhead, their black feathers stark against the pale sky. They sit shoulder to shoulder, unmoving except for their eyes. The moment someone approaches, the crows stare. Their heads turn in perfect unison, following the movement like a single organism. They do not caw or flutter their wings. They simply watch. The land around the bridge holds a strange stillness. The creek runs clear but without sound. No frogs call from the banks. No insects buzz in the reeds. The wind passes through the fields but stops at the edge of the bridge. As if blocked by something unseen. Travelers describe the air here as thick, like breath caught in a throat. When a person steps onto the bridge, the crows go silent. Even if they were already silent, the stillness deepens, like a held breath. The boards creak beneath the weight, the sound too loud in the quiet. The creek remains soundless. The sky feels closer. What happens next depends on who is watching. For some, nothing more occurs. They cross the bridge and continue on, the crows following them with their gaze. Until they vanish around the bend in the road. These travelers speak of a feeling that something measured their presence and chose to let them pass. They leave with a memory that clings, but no event to prove it. Others report a different experience. They step onto the midpoint of the bridge. And the crows shift. Not individually, but as one. They reposition like pieces on a board. Forming an arc above the path. Their wings remain folded. But their eyes flash in the changing light. In that moment the traveler feels seen. Not observed but understood. Judged. The silence sharpens. Some witnesses claim that the creek changes when they look down. For a second, the water reflects more than the sky. They see fields burned to stubble under a smoke-filled haze. They see scarecrows leaning in lines, their burlap faces turned toward the bridge. When they blink, the water clears again. The reflection becomes normal. But the feeling remains. There are stories about the scarecrows that once stood in the nearby fields. Old farmers claimed they moved during the night. Not by wind. Not by animals. They would be found in different rows each morning. Some said the scarecrows rotated to face the bridge. Others said they disappeared entirely. No one agrees on where they went. The crows seem to remember. Visitors who watch them long enough say the crows occasionally tilt their heads toward the fields instead of the traveler. Like they are listening for something. Or waiting. One hiker heard rustling in the corn, the kind that comes from something tall moving between stalks. Not wind. Not wildlife. Something that knew the rows and paths. The crows remained still until the noise stopped. Only then did they turn back to watch the hiker. Those who linger on the bridge too long report changes in the air. The smell of cut hay hangs beneath the wooden railings. Dust drifts across the boards though there is no breeze. Footsteps sound behind them on the planks, slow and deliberate. When they turn, no one is there. But the footsteps continue until they step off the bridge. One traveler at dusk claimed the crows parted like a curtain. They opened a gap in their line overhead, revealing the sky beyond. In the distance, he saw silhouettes standing among the fields. Shapes the height of men. Still. Waiting. Not human. Not quite. The crows watched both the traveler and the silhouettes, as if deciding what would come next. The traveler left without finishing the crossing. Some believe the crows are guardians. That they monitor the bridge to keep something inside the fields rather than to keep travelers out. Others believe the crows choose who may cross based on intent. They say the birds recognize fear. Recognize guilt. Recognize secrets. They do not allow everyone through. A few who attempted to cross at night described the crows differently. They do not sit in silence. They chatter in low tones, as if communicating. Their wings twitch like they are preparing to act. The creek below ripples in patterns that do not match natural current. The boards vibrate as though something beneath them is shifting. No one who crossed at night stayed to see what the crows would do. Scarecrow Creek Bridge remains. Small. Ordinary in shape. Extraordinary in presence. The crows gather along the wires like sentinels. When the bridge is stepped on, they go silent. And the moment of silence decides what comes next. For some, nothing happens. For others, the world changes a little. And what happens next depends on who is watching. River of Teeth Crossing sits on the outskirts of a quiet Texas highway. A narrow bridge spanning a river that moves with deceptive calm. The asphalt leading onto the bridge is cracked, but not from weather or age. The cracks radiate inward, like something heavy dragged itself across the surface toward the center. The guardrails along the sides are bent inward as well, pulled toward the river rather than pushed away. As though a force beneath the surface reached up and folded the metal by hand. Locals avoid the crossing. They drive the long way around, adding miles to their route rather than risk the short trip across the river. Travelers who do not know the stories sometimes stop to look over the edge. They see nothing unusual. The water appears peaceful, slow enough to barely register movement. The water reflects the sky clearly, a mirror of clouds drifting overhead. But that calm is a mask. Divers who have entered the river describe a different reality beneath the surface. Visibility drops almost immediately. The water grows darker with every foot descended, swallowing light like a living thing. The riverbed feels soft, too soft, like silt that has been churned repeatedly. Some divers never reach the bottom. Those who do not turn back early feel something else. Hands. Not gripping, not pulling, just brushing against their ankles like something testing them. Fingers tracing skin through wetsuits, learning shape and weight. None of the divers who touched the bottom have returned. The river holds on to them. The currents here are strange. They do not move in one direction. They coil and twist like breath, circling rather than flowing. On clear days, faint ripples travel upstream instead of downstream. As if the water is being pulled back toward the crossing. The wind moves in short bursts instead of gusts, like exhalations from below. Like exhalations from below. Some believe the guardrails tell the truth first. Bent inward. Metal twisted along a curve that resembles fingers curling. If someone stands close enough, they can see impressions in the steel. Where the paint has worn away. Not dents. Not scratches. Shapes. Long grooves that resemble tooth marks, spaced too evenly to be accident. The metal was not struck. It was bitten. At night, the river glows faintly beneath the bridge. Not bright enough to illuminate the surface, but enough to outline movement below. Shapes like bodies drifting with the current. Forms that separate into limbs before slipping back into darkness. The glow fades when headlights approach, returning only when the bridge is left to the dark again. Some describe hearing sounds then, beneath the hum of insects and the whisper of water. A slow scrape along the underside of the bridge. A knock against the support beams. A sound like suction, rhythmic and patient. Those who walk across the bridge after sunset feel watched. Not from the tree line or the road behind them, but from the river itself. The sensation begins at the midpoint, where the guardrails bend most sharply inward. The sound of water changes there. Each ripple sounds like movement. Each splash like breath. And below, the shapes shift with purpose. There are stories about people who vanished from River of Teeth crossing. A fisherman who leaned too far over the edge. A traveler who stopped to stretch their legs. A teenager who dared another to climb the guardrail. None were seen entering the water. No splash was heard. They were simply there, and then not. Tire tracks lead to the bridge, but never off it. Footprints stop before the midpoint and do not continue. The river leaves no trace. It only takes. Some researchers attempted to measure the depth. Their equipment malfunctioned before reaching the bottom. Data recorded impossible readings. A depth that changed with each descent. A temperature drop inconsistent with the region. A pressure shift as if the river grew wider the farther down they went. One device transmitted a final image before the signal cut. It showed darkness. Then teeth. Rows of them, too many to count. Receding into black water like a tunnel lined with bone. The river swallowed the device as it does everything else. In the years since, River of Teeth crossing has gained a reputation as more than a dangerous bridge. Some believe it is a boundary, a place where the surface world thins and something older waits on the other side. Not a predator, but a collector. Something that keeps what falls into its reach. Something that drags, but not out of hunger. Out of possession. If someone drops a stone into the river, it sinks without splash. The water closes around it instantly. Those who listen closely hear a second sound after the stone disappears. A distant impact, like that stone fell much farther than it should. As though the river does not end at the riverbed. At the center of the bridge, the air feels heavier. The bent guardrails curve inward like arms blocking escape. The river below looks calm, but divers feel hands brush their ankles. No one has touched the bottom and returned. The settlement nearby abandoned the crossing long ago. But the bridge remains, suspended over water that waits in silence. The guardrails are bent inward, as if pulled toward the center. Some believe something drags people off the bridge. The river below looks calm, but divers feel hands brush their ankles. No one has touched the bottom and returned. Storms shattered this bridge. The locals remember watching clouds gather with a darkness that swallowed the sky. The wind arrived first, howling through the trees like something alive. Then came the rain, heavy enough to drown the edges of the road. Lightning split the air and the bridge shook with each strike. When the storm passed, the river had risen and fallen in a single violent surge, stripping the boards free and scattering debris downstream. The planks now hang loose, swaying gently in the wind, their ends jagged like broken bone. Now the planks hang like loose teeth. The nails groan under weight they can no longer carry. Anyone who steps onto the first board feels the structure shift beneath them. The edges of the bridge are warped and uneven. Gaps between the boards expose the riverbed below, a dry channel of stone and rust. The slightest pressure sends pebbles tumbling into the empty space, where they scatter across metal fragments left behind by the storm. The riverbed is littered with rusted metal and fragments of rail. Twisted beams lie tangled like ribs. Bolts stick up from the ground like jagged thorns. Remnants of the old railing sit half buried in mud that hardened after the water receded. The smell of rust lingers even on dry days, as if the river never fully left. Some pieces look sharp enough to cut through leather. Others are worn smooth by wind and time. Travelers hear a man screaming for help. The voice rises from the direction of the riverbed, echoing through the broken beams. It sounds desperate, strained, as though the speaker has been calling out for hours. People who hear it hesitate, then approach the rail, scanning the riverbed for movement. The voice stops when reached. The moment someone gets close enough to look down, the air falls silent. No cries. No motion. Just the wind between the beams and the creak of loose boards swaying overhead. The emptiness of the riverbed stretches beneath them. Stones sit where they fell. Rusted metal sprawls like discarded bones. No figure waits below, and no sign of struggle marks the ground. Something else answers. It begins quietly. A whisper from beneath the planks, where the river once ran. Not a voice calling for help. Something lower, heavier, like words pushed through a space too tight for them. Then it grows. Not loud, but present. It echoes between the broken beams, twisting its tone as though testing a voice it has not used before. The sound crawls up from the riverbed and clings to the supports of the bridge, rattling the boards. Some say the sound mimics the man's voice. Others say it sounds nothing like him. It continues after the cries stop, moving along the length of the bridge like something exploring the ruin. Footsteps follow, heavy and deliberate. They start at one end of the structure and move toward the center. Boards bend, though no figure appears. The sound approaches slowly, as if something is learning how to walk along the broken planks. Those who stand on the bridge feel the wood shift beneath their feet. Not from their weight, but from pressure rising from below. The planks tremble, and the riverbed seems to pulse with a movement that should not exist. The wind that passes through the valley carries a metallic taste, sharp and cold, like the air inside an abandoned building. Visitors who return during daylight find the bridge unchanged. The boards still hang. The nails still groan. The riverbed remains empty. But at night, when fog drifts through the valley, the ruined structure takes on a different presence. Mist clings to the beams. Shapes form in the haze. The scream echoes again, always distant, always leading deeper into the ruin. The path across the bridge feels unstable, as if each board waits for the right moment to fall. Halfway across, the gaps widen. Anyone standing there feels watched from below. They feel eyes on them, not from the trees or the road, but from the darkness beneath the planks. That is where the answer waits. Not with a scream, but with silence, held like a question that has not yet been spoken. The storm left its mark. The wood remains in splinters. The rails lie scattered. And the bridge stands with jaws half open, waiting for something to fill the space where the river once flowed. The cry for help comes again and again. But the voice that answers after is patient. Curious. Familiar in a way that suggests it once belonged to someone human. And now belongs to something else entirely. Split-jaw bridge holds its breath in the wind. The planks hang like loose teeth. The riverbed waits below, rusted and silent. Travelers hear a man screaming for help. The voice stops when reached. Something else answers, learning to speak, learning to call, learning to wait for someone willing to take one step too far. The bridge stands, broken but listening. Fog Marsh Crossing lies in the wetlands of Georgia, where the ground soaks up rainfall like a sponge and the air hangs thick with humidity. The bridge stretches over dark marsh water, its boards old enough to creak under the weight of every step. The structure is plain, made of weathered wood and iron bolts, but something about it feels wrong. The lines of the bridge do not sit straight. The supports dip slightly, as though the marsh is trying to pull the structure down inch by inch. The place looks like it is losing a battle against time. Permanent mist surrounds the bridge like a living shroud. It clings to every board, every bolt, every grain of wood. It does not drift away in wind or sunlight. It stays, coiled around the structure like a blanket. The water below reflects nothing of the sky. It reflects only the bridge itself, as though the marsh refuses to show anything but what stands above it. Walking forward means stepping into that. As travelers move, the world behind them fades. The edge of the shore disappears. The tree line vanishes. Soon the only visible shapes are the rails on either side of the bridge. The rail is slick with something thicker than water. It coats the wood, tacky against gloves, cold against skin. Some say it feels like condensation. Others say it feels like something breathing. People see silhouettes moving ahead. They stand just beyond the thickest part of the fog, vague outlines of human figures. Their arms hang at their sides. Their shapes never come into focus. But when they blink, the silhouettes are behind them. The figures do not walk. They do not make sound. They simply change position, appearing where they were not a moment before. Some travelers see only one shape. Others see several. They fill the mist like stains on glass, vague smudges of darkness that refuse to sharpen into detail. No traveler has ever heard footsteps or felt weight shift on the planks, yet the silhouettes follow. The silhouettes follow. The marsh below the bridge gurgles, releasing bubbles that break the surface and release a smell like damp earth and rust. The water is still even when the bubbles rise. No current drags through the reeds. The fog lingers close to the surface, curling around the bridge supports like fingers pulling at the wood. Those who stop to look down find the water uncomfortably dark, like ink. The silence of the crossing is the first thing that unsettles most visitors. The marsh should be alive with insects, birds, reptiles. No frogs croaking. No birds calling. No insects buzzing. Even footsteps sound muted, swallowed before they echo. Travelers often speak softly, not because they fear being heard, but because the air feels like it is listening. Midway across, the mist thickens into a wall. Visibility drops to nearly nothing. Even the handrail becomes difficult to see. It feels like moving through a tunnel of vapor, surrounded by something alive. At first they face away. Then they turn. No faces are visible. Only outlines. Some travelers have reported that the mist smells different at the midpoint. Metallic. Cold. Like old water trapped underground for too long. Others say they hear breathing. Not close. Not far away. Something steady and slow, like lungs pulling air through vapor. The bridge does not lengthen, but it feels longer when returning. The boards dip more noticeably. The railing curves inward. The air grows colder. The air grows colder. Travelers swear the fog thickens behind them as they move, like a door closing. The silhouettes remain where they last appeared, still motionless, but their presence lingers like pressure at the back of the neck. Few cross the entire span. Many turn back after seeing the silhouettes shift places. Those who cross and return speak of a strange moment when the mist clears, just briefly, revealing the far shore. The land ahead looks untouched, a clearing of grass and trees that seem peaceful. But the clearing never stays visible. The fog drifts back and hides everything again. Locals say the bridge was built long ago, connecting two settlements that have both faded from the map. One settlement sank into the marsh. The other simply emptied out. Some believe the people who lived on the far side never left. They say the silhouettes might be what remains of those residents, waiting on the bridge they once used daily. Others think the bridge leads somewhere else entirely now, not to the other side, but to a place that wears the marsh like a disguise. Travelers who step off the bridge onto the far shore sometimes return weeks later, unable to remember what happened. Their clothes are damp with marsh water. Their voices sound distant. They refuse to speak of the silhouettes. They refuse to explain why they will not approach the bridge again. Permanent mist surrounds Fogmarsh Crossing like a living shroud. The rail is slick with something thicker than water. Silhouettes move ahead. When travelers blink, those silhouettes stand behind them. The bridge remains, weathered and restless, suspended over dark water that reflects nothing. Fogmarsh Crossing waits for footsteps. Grayvale Trestle stands deep in the forests of Oregon, where the trees rise tall enough to hide the sky and the mist clings low to the earth. The bridge is all that remains of a once active rail line, a towering wooden trestle stretching across a steep ravine. The tracks have long since rusted, swallowed by moss and weather, yet the structure endures. Time has hollowed the boards, but the trestle still holds its shape, like a memory refusing to fade. Decades ago, a train derailed here. The event is recorded in fragments, scattered newspaper accounts, faded photographs, and stories that shift depending on who tells them. Locals whisper a different reason. They say the train never fully left. On quiet nights, when wind moves through the forest, the sound of the train horn echoes across the ravine. At first it is distant, a lone note carried through the trees, nearly mistaken for the call of an animal. But it grows louder. Not gradually, but steadily. The horn sounds as though it is approaching at full speed, heading straight for the trestle. The air vibrates with the noise. The boards tremble. The forest holds its breath. Visitors who stand on the trestle describe the sensation of waiting for something that cannot arrive. There are no rails left to carry wheels. No locomotive to push forward. Yet the sound says otherwise. It races closer, rattling the structure from below, shaking the boards at the traveller's feet. Some feel the vibration rise through their shoes, through their knees, through their chest. They grip the railing and wait, bracing for a train that never appears. Stand too long, and cold metal presses against the back. Not sharply, not with force, but with weight. The sensation is unmistakable, like leaning against the front of a locomotive. The shape lacks form but carries presence, a wall of metal that feels solid and impossibly close. It is not painful. It is not violent. It is simply there, as if the train is passing through without slowing, moving along tracks that no longer exist. Those who remain feel pressure settle along their spine, like a shadow of impact from a collision long over. The horn continues past them, fading into the distance without ever showing a source. Some describe hearing more than the horn. Screeching wheels. Splintering wood. A sudden rush of wind. As though something enormous has moved through the air. Others hear nothing but footsteps on the trestle itself, paced and heavy, as though workers still check the bridge at night. Coming closer, pause beside them, and fade before reaching the other side. The trestle has been known to shift underfoot. Boards creak and settle as if reacting to the weight of something unseen. Cold pockets of air gather in segments along the walkway, spaced like train cars. Some stand in these spaces and feel as though they are occupying rooms not meant for them. Compartment after compartment, emptiness shaped like memory. Below the trestle, the ravine remains choked with fog. Trees grow twisted along the slope, their trunks angled as if something heavy once fell through them. Water trickles in a narrow stream at the very bottom, running quietly beneath the structure. On certain nights, the mist rises in a straight column, drawn upward like steam from an engine. Locals warn against crossing Greyvale Trestle after dark. They say the horn is not sound. It is invitation. They say the cold metal that presses against the back is not memory. It is momentum. They believe the train still runs, not on the rails that once stood, but through the space they left behind. A path worn into the world like a scar. Some travelers carry lanterns or flashlights when they visit. The light stretches across the boards but does not reach the far end. Instead, the beam dims, shrinking as though swallowed by distance. The trestle appears longer than it should be, the opposite side receding with each step forward. Even in daylight, the scale feels off, as though the bridge extends farther than the ravine can possibly allow. Those who turn back quickly find the way shorter than expected. The entrance appears ahead before they have time to register the walk. The horn silences. The pressure fades. The forest exhales, returning to the quiet of wind and branches. Those who linger feel the trestle shift once more, as though releasing them. But some fail to turn back in time. People have vanished here. Not in large numbers, but enough to leave questions. Their cars found at the trailhead. Their bags left at the entrance. No sign of struggle. The reports read like disappearances, but locals speak differently. That the train came for them. That the horn arrived and they stayed too long. That when the cold metal pressed against their back, they did not move aside. Greyvale Trestle remains, stretching across the ravine like a spine of old timber and rusted nails. The train that derailed decades ago left marks no repair could erase. At night, the horn calls through the trees. The sound grows louder, as if approaching at full speed. Stand too long, and cold metal presses against your back. As if a train is passing through you. The drowned roadway lies off a forgotten stretch of Florida coast, where asphalt vanishes beneath the tide and never reappears. Long ago, the hurricane came. It rose out of the Gulf with a force no forecast predicted, tearing apart docks and homes and railings like driftwood. When the storm passed, the bridge was gone. The remaining road ended abruptly at the shoreline, broken pavement sinking into the sea. But the ocean never returned the surface. The bridge stayed underwater. The road did not resurface when the tide fell. It remained drowned. The roadway extends into deep water. A path that disappears beneath dark waves as though swallowed whole. On clear days, the edge of the pavement can be seen underwater. A ghostly outline marked with barnacles and seaweed. The ocean laps at the asphalt. Gentle and patient, as though waiting for something. Or someone. Locals say the road still remembers where it once led. They speak of engines heard at night, tires humming on pavement that should no longer exist. They say the drowned bridge is still in use, but not by the living. Travelers standing near the shoreline claim they have heard movement in the distance. The sound of wheels turning. The shift of weight across a structure no longer visible. Headlights appear in the distance, far out to sea where there should be nothing but open water. At first, they look like reflections on the waves. Then they grow brighter, approaching along a straight line that mirrors where the bridge used to be. The lights move smoothly, as if guided by a familiar road. They rise and fall in rhythm, like tires passing over cracked planks and missing railings. But there is no bridge now. Only ocean. The vehicles drive forward until they reach the edge where asphalt meets water. Then they continue. Headlights pass beneath the surface like lanterns sinking into darkness. The lights grow dimmer. They flicker. And then they vanish. No bubbles rise. Some who witness this remain on shore. Others step closer, compelled by what they see. The wind pulls at their clothes. The waves whisper against the pavement. The headlights continue deeper until the ocean swallows them entirely. After they vanish, the water remains still. No wake. No sound. As if nothing had passed at all. There are those who believe the vehicles are real. Cars swept away by the storm, still following the route they knew in life. Others claim the lights belong to travelers who refused to abandon their journey the night the hurricane came, following a path that memory holds open even when reality does not. They say the drivers think they are still on the bridge, that the headlights guide them forward as they always have. Some believe the road is not gone. They say it still exists, just deeper. They describe the drowned bridge as a doorway. A threshold between the world above and something beneath. They insist that the headlights belong to those who crossed and never came back. A handful of divers have attempted to explore the submerged road. They reported strange conditions beneath the surface. Visibility falls quickly, not because of silt or debris, but because the water darkens unnaturally. It feels thicker, like moving through shadow. Their lights struggle to cut through it. Compass needles spin without direction. The sound of engines vibrates through the current from no discernible source, like movement occurring just out of reach. One diver surfaced claiming they saw a shape below. Not a vehicle, but the outline of beams and planks, a bridge assembled out of darkness itself. Just beyond it, pairs of headlights glowed like eyes waiting in the deep. The diver left the water and never returned. Fishermen along the coast hear strange knocks against the hulls of their boats. Some say it is debris from the storm. Others insist the pattern is too deliberate, like someone tapping from below. On rare nights, a ripple forms across the surface, starting far out along the route of the old bridge. It travels toward the shore slowly, never breaking, never crashing, just rolling forward as though something beneath is passing by. Those who visit in daylight find the place unnerving for a different reason. The water seems too calm. The wind changes direction suddenly, as if responding to movement no one can see. The road leading to the shoreline remains intact, but the moment it reaches the water, the line between land and sea becomes uncertain. Some swear they see pavement beneath the waves stretching farther than it should. Others blink and the outline disappears. The ocean remembers what took the bridge. The road remembers where it led. Something beneath remembers those who never finished crossing. The drowned roadway still waits. The path still holds shape in the water. And on stormy nights, vehicles drive across the submerged route. Headlights vanish beneath the waves. No bubbles rise. Broken Choir Bridge rests deep in the quiet backroads of North Carolina, where trees rise like silhouettes against the sky and the air carries the scent of pine and damp leaves. What sets this bridge apart is not the damage, but the sound. When the wind moves across the broken beams, it produces tones that resemble voices. Not whistles. Not creaks. Voices. They rise and fall like song, forming harmonies that drift across the river. At first the sound resembles hymns, as if a congregation stands just out of sight. The melody is soft, gentle, almost sorrowful. But as the wind strengthens, the tone shifts. The voices grow clearer. Distinct. Like prayers spoken by unseen mouths. Some describe the sound as a warning. Others call it a summons. The singing is strongest at dusk. When the sky turns violet and the last light disappears behind the tree line. The voices begin to form words. Not in full sentences, but in fragments. Please. Apologies. Names. Some listeners claim the wind uses their name, calling them forward in a tone too familiar to ignore. They hear it once, think it a mistake, then hear it again. Closer. Sharper. Like someone just beyond the broken planks is waiting for them. Most people stop where the boards first shift under their weight. They feel the bridge tremble, the song rising like breath from below. They step back to the safety of solid ground and the voices fade. But there are others who walk forward. They move slowly, drawn by the melody, stepping between cracked boards as if the gaps are only illusions. Their eyes remain fixed on the far side of the bridge, even though it leads to nothing more than forest. The singing changes for them. It narrows. Focuses. The harmonies fall away until only one voice remains. A voice just for them. It stops sounding like wind and begins to sound like something else. A voice that remembers them. A voice that expects them. Those who reach the center of the bridge hear the hymn end abruptly. The silence that follows is louder than the song. They walk forward until the singing stops. No one knows what happens after that. Broken Choir Bridge has become a place of speculation and quiet fear among nearby residents. Some believe the bridge is haunted by those who fell through the gaps during storms or floods. They say the river below claimed them and their voices cling to the beams like echoes that can never fade. Others suggest the song predates the bridge itself, that the sound came first and the structure was built over it, as if trying to silence a presence that wanted to rise. There is a theory that the bridge acts like an instrument. That the beams, twisted and splintered, create channels for wind to travel through and produce tones no normal structure should make. If that theory is true, then the wind carries more than sound. It carries intention. It chooses what to say. It chooses who to call. Visitors sometimes report feeling pressure in their ears as they approach, like altitude changing even though the land is flat. The river below does not move quickly, but the reflection breaks in places where nothing touches the surface. The water glows faintly when the song is strongest, pale ripples spreading outward like footsteps taken under the surface. The longer someone watches, the more it feels like the water is watching back. Animals avoid the area. Birds fly around the tree line, never passing over the bridge. Dogs refuse to cross the threshold, pulling against leashes or freezing in place. Even insects fall silent near the structure. The world around the bridge behaves as if listening. There is no official record of disappearances tied to the location. No evidence of people falling or jumping. Yet stories pass from family to family. A traveler who followed the sound across the beams and never returned. A hiker whose footprints stopped at the center of the bridge. A driver who pulled over to investigate the song one night and abandoned their vehicle at the roadside. The engine cooled. The door left open. Wind passing through snapped beams creates music that sounds like voices singing. Hymns. Prayers. Warnings. Some people hear their own name in the song. They walk forward until the singing stops. The bridge stands in silence afterward, waiting for the next person to hear their name carried on the wind. Last Step Gorge Bridge stands at the edge of the Arizona desert, where shifting winds carve canyons from sandstone and erase roads like chalk wiped from a slate. The bridge once connected two cliffs stretched far above a steep drop. It was a narrow path, built from wooden planks and supported by ropes anchored deep into the rock. Travelers once crossed it to reach the mining settlements beyond the gorge. But time and the desert have reclaimed most of that passage. Sandstorms erased the middle section of the bridge. The storms came in waves over the years, grinding wood into dust and carrying pieces of the structure over the edge. What remains now are two broken ends of a once straight span. The ropes hang across the gap like skeletal remains of a path, swaying above empty space. A few planks cling to the ropes on either side, but the center is gone, leaving nothing but wind and the long drop below. Only ropes and beams remain. The beams jut forward like ribs, reaching toward the opposite cliff but never meeting it. The ropes stretch between them, frayed and trembling. They hum when the wind passes through, vibrating like distant strings of an instrument. Anyone stepping close to the edge can feel the resonance through the stone, a reminder of what the bridge once was and what has been taken by the desert. Some travelers see figures crossing easily, stepping where nothing exists. They appear at dusk, silhouettes against the falling sun. They move with certainty, placing their feet on air as though the planks are still solid. Their stride is even and uninterrupted, and they never pause to check their footing. They cross from one broken end to the other, walking the path that used to be there. Some wear the shapes of travelers, others of workers, their outlines blurred like sand caught in wind. They never look down. If followed, the world falls away beneath. Those who try to trail the figures see the empty space begin to shimmer. The ropes appear solid for a moment. The planks seem to reform beneath the weight of the figures ahead. For a brief second, the mind believes the bridge is whole again. But when the follower takes the first step, the illusion breaks. The wind roars through the gap. The gorge stretches wider, as if the canyon inhales. The gaps between the beams widen. The horizon flickers. The cliffs seem to pull apart, distancing themselves like islands drifting in water. The ropes hold their shape but not their strength. They swing, not from weight, but from something unseen, like the memory of footsteps that no longer belong to the living. The bridge feels suspended in time. The cliffs contain the remains of old bolts, rusted to flakes. The wood that once formed the walkway lies in fragments scattered along the canyon floor. The desert wind lifts dust into spirals that drift across the gap. On the far side, the mining road still exists, leading into tunnels carved into the red rock. But no lanterns shine there now. The settlement has long been abandoned. Some say the people left on foot. Others believe they crossed the bridge one last time and never reached the other side. Standing at the edge of Last Step Gorge Bridge brings a strange sensation. The wind feels stronger than it should, like it is pushing, not blowing. The drop below seems deeper than the cliffs suggest. A faint sound rises from the canyon, not quite wind, not quite voice. It carries a tone of echoing distance, like something calling out from far beneath the rock. There are stories of travelers who returned after trying to cross. They speak of the world falling away, not suddenly, but piece by piece. They say the horizon fractured like glass. They felt gravity twist. Those who turned back speak of figures watching them from the opposite cliff. They speak of a bridge that no longer exists. Those who turn back speak of figures watching them from the opposite cliff, still standing on a bridge that no longer exists. Others did not return. Their belongings were found near the edge. Footprints led toward the gap and stopped at the first missing plank. There were no prints beyond. The wind erased the rest. The bridge does not threaten loudly. It waits in silence. It stands as a doorway without a threshold. The ropes stretch across the void like an invitation that has been waiting too long. The desert offers no guidance. It only watches, patient and old. If someone stands long enough at the broken end, the wind changes tone. The wind changes tone. It becomes steady. Rhythmic. As if matching the footsteps of the unseen figures crossing. And for a moment, the bridge seems whole again. Then the light changes. The wind shifts. The illusion dissolves. Last Step Gorge Bridge remains broken. Sandstorms erased the middle section. Only ropes and beams remain. Some travelers see figures crossing easily, stepping where nothing exists. And if followed, the world falls away beneath, leaving nothing but wind, distance, and the long drop into the gorge. The bridge endures, suspended between what once was and what no longer is, holding the last step between two worlds. Coldwater Drop Bridge stands alone in the Montana backcountry, far from paved roads and far from the reach of towns. It stretches over a narrow ravine, suspended above a drop so deep that the bottom fades into darkness even in daylight. The bridge is made of wood and simple metal supports, nothing elaborate, nothing that explains the most unsettling truth about it. It is frozen every season, even in heat. Summer days can climb high, the air thick and dry, but the boards remain glazed in ice. Travelers approach with caution, boots slipping before they even place weight on the first board. Their breath fogs in front of them, even when the surrounding air is warm enough to feel like midsummer. No one understands the source of the cold. Locals say the wind that passes through the ravine steals heat before it reaches the bridge. Others believe the frost grows from within the wood itself, rising through every grain like veins of winter. The boards creak beneath every step, as though struggling to hold themselves together in a temperature they were not built to endure. Footprints appear on the ice. They stretch from one end of the bridge to the other, dragging patterns that do not match the gait of a walking person. The prints look uneven, as though whoever made them could not stand upright. Lines run alongside each step, carved into the frost. They resemble finger marks, trailing across the frozen boards like someone pulled themselves forward by hand. The patterns are always fresh. They never fade. Snow does not cover them. Heat does not erase them. It is as if something crosses the bridge over and over again, unable to reach the end. Travelers who step forward feel a pressure in the air. The cold bites like teeth, sinking into the skin, numbing fingers and toes within moments. The wind blows through the ravine, carrying a voice with it. A whisper rides the wind, drifting just audible enough to stir instinct. It sounds like someone calling from a distance, asking for help. It rises and falls with the breeze, not frantic but exhausted, like the word has been spoken too many times to still hold hope. The voice does not sound alive. It echoes like something old, something worn down. Some hikers stop immediately. Others continue forward, drawn by curiosity or sympathy. Those who step onto the bridge feel the ice shift. The cold rises through their boots. The whisper grows clearer, not louder but closer, like it rests at the midpoint of the bridge and waits for someone to answer. The ravine below seems impossible to measure. The darkness reaches up like a well without a bottom. No water glints. No rock formations break the shadow. When wind sweeps through, snow and ice rise from the depths instead of falling into them, swirling up around the bridge like a frozen breath. Some say they see shapes in that swirling frost. Not clear outlines, not full figures, just impressions of movement. Like something shifts within the cold itself. Halfway across, the railing changes. Frost thickens around the iron. Ice forms patterns like hands pressing from the inside. Shapes smeared along the surface. If touched, the cold burns like fire. The marks melt subtly and then return. Like breath condensing on glass. Travelers report the sensation of being watched. Not from the trees or the ravine walls, but from whatever lies hidden beneath the darkness. The footprints grow deeper at the midpoint. The drag marks from the fingers cut cleaner lines into the ice. They end abruptly, as though whoever crawled reached that spot and could go no farther. The whisper is strongest here. It does not echo. It does not fade. It rests in the air like breath on the back of the neck. Travelers who listen long enough hear something beneath the whisper. A second sound. Slow breathing. Some describe feeling hands grip their ankles. Not violently. Not even strongly. Just enough to freeze them in place. As though something below is reaching, asking for help with touch instead of words. Their skin numbs instantly. They pull away before the cold spreads. Those who hesitate feel the cold climb higher, like fingers crawling across bone. No one has ever crossed the full length. The far side of the bridge remains untouched, forever just beyond reach. Others insist it leads somewhere very real, a place that cannot be reached by walking alone. Not between two cliffs, but between two states of being. The voice calls again. Help me. It drifts through the air like snow blown off branches. It does not sound hopeful. It does not sound angry. It sounds like something that has been waiting a long time for someone to answer. Coldwater Drop Bridge remains frozen every season, even in heat. The boards are glazed in ice. Footprints appear as though someone drags themselves across, fingers carving lines into the frost. A whisper rides the wind. It does not sound alive. And the bridge waits for someone to answer. The bridge under no sun stands in a remote stretch of New Mexico desert, where the land is flat enough to see the horizon curve and the sky burns white with heat. The sand around it reflects sunlight like shattered glass. Every rock, every cactus, every footprint casts a shadow in the midday glare. Every shape has a twin of darkness stretching behind it. Every shape except the bridge. Except the bridge. The structure arches over a dry ravine, built of stone that should glow pale beneath the sun. Instead, it absorbs the light. Even at noon, the bridge remains dark. Not dark like shade. Dark like absence. The kind of darkness that looks carved from the earth, untouched by warmth or time. People approaching it feel the difference before they reach it. The air grows cooler. Sound grows softer. Sound grows softer. The desert wind loses its voice. Step near its edge, and something strange becomes clear. The bridge casts no shadow. Not even a trace. The sun overhead burns directly down, but no outline forms on the sand below. The boards and stone seem to erase the light rather than block it. Travelers who study it too long describe a sensation like staring at a photograph missing part of the image, an empty space where something should be. Those who step onto the first board lose their own shadows too. The moment a foot crosses the threshold, the shape beneath them dissolves. The sunlight touches their body from above, but no silhouette forms. The ground remains blank. People often step back immediately, testing the line between the world they know and the world the bridge occupies. Step forward, the shadow is gone. Step back, it returns. Forward again, gone. The line is sharp, like a boundary drawn by something that understands how light should behave. Some visitors pause there, unwilling to leave part of themselves behind. Others continue, pulled by curiosity or by dare. The railing appears ordinary. The ravine winds below like a dry riverbed, filled with sun-bleached stone. But something feels wrong. The air on the bridge carries no warmth. No insects move. Footsteps feel muted, as if the sound is swallowed rather than echoed. Halfway across, the brightness of the world begins to fade. Not dimming, but flattening. The sky above becomes pale. The distant mountains blur. It feels as though the bridge stands outside the landscape rather than inside it. People describe the sensation of walking forward while the world behind them falls away, like stepping out of a photograph frame. Some say the bridge hums beneath their feet. A low vibration, steady and calm, like a chord held in place. Others say they hear nothing at all, but feel as though they are being watched from the ravine below. No shapes appear. No figures wait. Only the sense of presence, patient and unmoving. Near the far end of the bridge, the temperature changes again. The air grows still. Even the sunlight seems frozen, unable to touch the boards. Anyone who turns around and looks back sees their own shadow waiting at the entrance, still connected to them by distance, stretching across the sand like a final tether. But it does not move. It does not follow. It waits in place, fixed at the beginning of the crossing like an echo of a person who has not finished stepping forward. Those who cross to the far end never regain their shadows. When they step off the final board, the tether breaks. There is no sensation of separation. No pain. No sound. Only the realization that something is missing. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. It is gone the way breath vanishes on a cold morning. Quietly, completely. The only trace of what was lost lies back at the start of the bridge, where a silhouette remains like a shape stamped into sand. Some return to the bridge, hoping to reclaim what they left. They step toward their shadow, watching it hold its form like a figure waiting to be rejoined. They walk forward, but it does not meet them. Instead, it retreats in synchrony with their steps. Always a few paces ahead, returning to the edge of the bridge as though anchored to the world they cannot re-enter. Others never return at all. Locals say those who lose their shadows lose more in time. They grow pale, not in skin but in presence. Animals do not notice them passing. Their voices become quiet. Their footprints fade faster in dust. People who knew them well begin to forget small details first. The sound of their laugh, the way they stood, the weight of their presence in a room. As if the world has one less angle to hold their shape. The bridge under no sun remains, untouched by weather and unseen by maps. It casts no shadow. Even at noon, it stays dark. Travelers stepping on it lose their own shadows too. And those who cross to the far end never regain them. The bridge is old, built of weathered planks and rusted chains that sway with every breath of wind. Moss creeps along the wood, and rust stains streak down the links like dried blood turned to metal. It should be abandoned. It should be forgotten. But it remains, waiting for anyone curious or unlucky enough to cross it. The chains hang loose, heavy with years of corrosion. Yet they drip water even on dry days. It does not matter if the sky is clear, if the sun is bright, or if the air is still without a hint of rain. Droplets fall from the metal like tears, pattering onto the planks below. The water looks clean at first glance. But those who touch it say it feels colder than it should. As if the droplets formed somewhere far below. Pulled up through the chains rather than falling from above. The planks sway when stepped on. That alone is expected for a bridge this old. But the sway grows stronger the farther someone walks, as though the weight increases with each step. The chains stretch slightly, as if adjusting to strain. Visitors stop and check behind them, expecting someone to be following. But the path remains empty. The violent movement of the bridge does not match the wind. Gusts push the trees at the cliff edge. But the planks move in their own rhythm, out of sync with the forest around them. The sway builds slowly, then suddenly jerks as if responding to pressure. Some snap upward, pulled taut by force that does not come from the person crossing. Something heavy walks ahead unseen. Each footfall lands before the traveler reaches that section of the bridge. The planks bend downward. The bridge groans in protest. Then the weight shifts forward again, step by step. The unseen presence remains just out of reach, always ahead, never visible. The traveler feels it guiding their pace. Not threatening, but insistent. As if leading them to the other side. Or luring them. Hikers have turned back at this point, choosing the solid ground behind them over the unknown in front. The bridge stiffens. The invisible footsteps stop. Then the planks ahead tilt forward, as if urging them onward. The chains shiver, droplets falling faster. The air grows colder. A sound rises from the gorge below, not wind but a low hum like distant machinery or a voice trying to form itself. Some people cross despite the fear. They say the planks remain stable under their feet as long as they follow the rhythm. Step when the unseen steps. Match the pace. Move when the bridge tells them to. They reach the far side breathless, unsure if they escaped something or accompanied it. The moment they step onto solid ground, the bridge stops moving. The chains go still. The water stops falling. Others never make it across. There are stories of hikers who were seen stepping onto the bridge but not reaching the other side. Their footprints continue across the planks until they fade halfway. The boards there are warped more severely, bent as if under great pressure. The chains near that section remain wet even during long heat waves. Locals avoid looking directly at that point, claiming the air wavers like rising steam. Some say the bridge remembers who crossed. That once someone matches the unseen footsteps. The rhythm stays with them. They hear it when they sleep. They feel it when they walk. They sense it waiting behind them, expecting them to return. The rusted chains drip more when those people are near. As if recognizing them. As if greeting them. There is an old belief whispered among the nearby towns. The bridge was built over something that should not have been disturbed. They say the ravine was once deeper, darker, before construction filled the space with echoes instead of earth. Some insist the water was not always water, that the gorge held something that moved like liquid but thought like a living thing. The bridge may not hold it back. It may guide it. Certain nights bring the strongest activity. The dripping from the chains increases, falling fast enough to sound like rainfall, though no clouds gather in the sky. The bridge sways with violent force, boards snapping and slamming as if multiple sets of footsteps run across at once. No one is visible. But the movement continues. At the height of these nights, the unseen weight crosses the bridge at speed. The planks bow under the force. The chains strain. The dripping turns to streams. And whatever crosses does not stop at the center. It reaches the far side, but there is no sign of where it goes. No footprints. No disturbed brush. Just silence. Rustfall Suspension Bridge stands suspended between cliffs, held up by chains that weep water and boards that no footsteps no one can see. The planks sway violently as if something heavy walks ahead, unseen but undeniable. The sway does not match the wind. It matches a presence that moves with intention. A traveler can choose to turn back. Or they can follow the rhythm. But the bridge does not walk alone. The bridge that ends in mist is not tied to a single place. It is not mapped. It is not marked. Travelers describe finding it at the edge of exhaustion, when the world around them blurs with fatigue and distance. Some encounter it deep in forests where branches knit together like ribs overhead. Others claim to find it stretching across desert sand, the boards resting on nothing but heat shimmer. There are reports of it rising from snowfields, where frost clings to the railings like veins of crystal. Each account differs in setting, but the structure is always the same. A wooden bridge. Weathered. Gray. Quiet. It appears without warning, revealing itself only when someone turns a corner, clears a dune, or steps from tree cover into a clearing. The boards at the entrance are solid enough to hold weight. The railings lean inward slightly, as if guiding whoever stands before them. Beyond the first few steps, mist swallows the bridge. A fog so dense that the far end cannot be seen. It rises and falls like breath, shifting with faint currents of wind that do not touch the surrounding air. Those who find the bridge are often alone. Hikers. Long-distance drivers. Campers off-trail. People who have traveled far enough to lose track of time. The bridge offers direction when none exists. It becomes a path when no other path remains. The voices begin after the first step. Soft at first, more suggestion than sound. A call from somewhere in the mist, shaped like language but too distant to understand. The boards creak underfoot with a sound that resonates deeper than wood should allow. Some describe the sensation of being watched from both sides. Not by eyes, but by presence. By attention. The second step brings clarity. The voices grow sharper. Still not words, but closer. Like hearing someone speak through layers of fog. There is warmth in the sound, almost familiar, like someone calling from a memory that has already faded. The mist thickens. The entrance behind the traveler seems farther away than it should. The world they came from grows smaller, its colors drained by the fog. By the third step, the voices call by intention rather than name. They beckon. They encourage. Not with promises, but with a feeling. A pull. The boards no longer creak randomly. They hum. There is emotion in that sound. Hope or sorrow, depending on who hears it. What once lay at their back becomes uncertainty. If they turn to look, the place they came from is unfocused, like a picture left too long in the sun. The world beyond the first boards flickers, wavering between memory and distance. This is when most people stop. Their breath fogs the air even when the climate should not allow it. Their heartbeat sounds louder than their footsteps. The voices shift tone. The voices shift tone. Some say the voices become pleading. Others say commanding. A few insist they sound joyous, even welcoming. Whatever the case, the voices are closer now. The mist glows faintly, not from light, but from movement. Shapes shift inside the fog, pacing the traveler like companions or shadows. The fifth step is a choice. If someone steps forward into the deeper fog, the boards behind them vanish. Not crumble. Not fall. They simply are no longer there. The wood fades into mist, dissolving like breath on glass. Turning back becomes impossible. The traveler is committed to whatever waits ahead. They walk forward until the boards beneath their feet end, or until the mist takes them fully. Those who stop before the fifth step can still turn back. If they retreat, the entrance returns. The boards reappear. The mist loosens its hold. The voices fade like smoke. This is how the stories survive. From those who stepped far enough to witness change, but not so far that change consumed them. No one knows what lies beyond the mist. No one has ever crossed the bridge twice. Those who entered do not return to confirm what waits. Their absence is the only testimony. The world offers no sign of where they went. There are no tracks. No remains. No trace. Some believe the bridge leads to another world entirely. A place where the living cross thresholds they are not meant to see. Others claim it is a test, one that rewards those who listen rather than follow. A few fear it is simply a boundary, a place where reality frays, and anything that steps too far is lost between layers. The bridge never appears to groups. It finds individuals. People who are drifting. People seeking direction without realizing it. People who have traveled far enough that the world feels thin. The moment the traveler takes their eyes from the fog, the bridge begins to dissolve. It fades from the edges inward, becoming sky, or sand, or snow, or trees. By the time someone reaches solid ground again, the bridge is gone. Only the memory remains. A memory that grows softer each day. Like mist evaporating in sunlight. No one knows where this bridge stands. Some find it in forests. Some in deserts. Some in snow. Some find it in forests. Some in deserts. Some in snow. Voices call from the other side. If someone steps into the fog, the boards behind them vanish. No one has ever crossed it twice. Thank you, my dear friend, for walking these haunted bridges with me tonight. Roads divide the world. Rivers cut it open. Bridges are supposed to connect us. But these bridges connect nothing. They lead nowhere. Or perhaps they lead somewhere we are not meant to follow. If you ever reach a broken bridge at dusk and feel the wind pushing you forward. If footsteps echo behind you though no one is there. If the wood groans like bones shifting awakea. Leave. Do not cross. Do not test the dead. Some bridges do not carry weight. They carry souls. Would you take that first step onto a broken bridge that no one dares to cross? Or would you stay on solid ground and hope the wind forgets your name? Rest now. Until our next haunted journey.